Hello, my name is Ben McLean, and today I'm going to be talking about hypersonic missile defense. You may have been asked the hypothetical question, if you could have a superpower, which would you choose? Now, a frequent answer to this question would be invisibility, the ability to go anywhere you choose without being seen or detected. Now, world defense powers frequently are offered a similar choice, and they too choose invisibility, or what's better known as stealth. You'll be interested to know that China and Russia have recently developed military capability to attack United States targets instantaneously in invisibility with a stealthy technology called hypersonic missiles. Hypersonic missiles are missiles that travel at speeds of Mach 5 or greater, or around 4,000 miles per hour. Now, they fly lower than ballistic missiles, which you can see in the figure on the bottom right, where they break off the ballistic trajectory and continue to their target at the upper levels of the atmosphere. Because of this, they are more maneuverable due to flying in the atmosphere where they can utilize aerodynamic forces, and they also are frequently picked up much later by radar systems as they are hidden by the curvature of the Earth. Last summer, I interned at Raytheon. Raytheon is one of the largest defense contractors in the world, and they mainly produce radar and sensor systems and anti-aircraft and interceptor missiles, and these are the two types of technologies that are needed to defeat hypersonic missiles. Raytheon built NASAMS, which is the National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile System, which is the missile defense system that defends Washington, D.C. It consists of sensors and interceptors based at different locations around the nation's capital. And due to their experience, Raytheon will be one of the companies tasked largely with developing the hypersonic missile defense system that the United States will use. Now, there are really no perfect defenses for hypersonic missiles currently. However, there's lots of funding and interest going towards hypersonic missile defense. So going forward, we're going to look at some of the possible solutions to this problem. Firstly, we'll look at boost phase defense. Boost phase defense means detecting and shooting down hypersonic missiles during their launch or when they are rapidly gaining altitude or velocity. Now, the pros of this approach is it is easier to intercept missiles before they have reached their cruising altitude and velocity because they are traveling slower, they are less maneuverable, and have a distinct radar signature. Now, the F-35 is currently equipped with a sensor system capable of detecting hypersonic missile launches. Additionally, it's also fairly simple to retrofit other aircraft in the area with such systems. Most likely, this approach would use some sort of laser interceptor to destroy missiles during the boost phase. And you can kind of see a visual of that on the bottom left. Now, the cons to this approach would be the defense systems have to be close to the missiles when they launch, and it is difficult to know where the missiles will launch from, as hypersonic missiles are fairly modular and can be fired from a variety of different platforms such as ships or aircrafts. The next approach we'll look at is space-based defense systems. Now, this would consist of hundreds of small satellites in low Earth orbit or around 2,000 kilometers above the Earth. This would be the easiest large-scale defense system to implement and get into place, and it is in some capacity being done right now. Now, these satellites would be placed in orbits over strategic locations, so we would have multiple satellites orbiting, say, the South China Sea or key military bases in Russia. Now, the major con of this system is that it would be extremely difficult and expensive to implement a space-based system of interceptor missiles. It's really expensive to launch things into space, and putting missiles in orbit around the Earth would really open a whole can of worms with regards to the militarization of space that we maybe don't want to tackle. Additionally, we currently have a system of ballistic missile sensors in geosynchronous orbit, which is about 5,000 kilometers above the Earth, but these would not work for hypersonic missiles as they would not be able to see through the atmosphere. The third approach would be a glide phase-based defense system. This would consist of a system of domestic radars and interceptors designed to shoot down incoming hypersonic missiles during their unpowered hypersonic approach to the target or their glide phase. This represents the most realistic shot of shooting down incoming hypersonic missiles, and it is the most similar to current missile defense systems. For example, one approach that's being looked at is the Regional Glide Phase Weapon System, or the RGPWS, which would use modular vertical launch tubes on naval destroyer ships to provide launch platforms for interceptor missiles. And this approach is receiving a ton of funding right now from DoD sources. Now, cons of this is that we really don't currently have the capacity to shoot down, the capability to shoot down hypersonic missiles, as they just travel too fast and are too maneuverable, as well as plasma buildup on the skin during their glide phase makes it difficult to track them. Additionally, it is easy for the enemy to send a volley of missiles, which would result in us having to choose which missiles to shoot down. Because of the low altitude these missiles fly and their high velocity and the not being able to see them coming due to the curvature of the Earth, only land-based sensors really have their limitations. So, in conclusion, this is an extremely difficult technical challenge, but we do have some fairly decent options that we can explore. I think the first step is to get a system of space sensors in place to detect and track hypersonic missiles from launch to target. It's really important to know if anything's coming for us, and an effective sensor network can be a deterrent, because if the enemy knows that we're going to know a missile's coming, they know that we will have the ability to send a return fire if we need to. Now, the second step, I think, would be to then work on implementing a system of land, sea, and air-based interceptors that would work in conjunction with the space sensor layer radars in orbit to shoot down these missiles. So this would consist of a distributed interceptor network that would talk with the space-based sensors in order to get a comprehensive missile defense system. This is a really difficult and expensive solution, but I think it is our best shot, and it is something that we have deemed necessary to pull off due to the dramatic increasing threat of hypersonic missiles, and American engineers have the ability to pull it off, in my opinion. So thank you for listening.